Welcome, and thank you for standing by. At this time, participants are in a listen-only mode. During the question-and-answer session, you may press star 1 on your touch-tone phone. If you'd like to ask a question by typing any questions, you may type the questions through the net portion. Today's conference is recorded. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. I will now turn the meeting over to Delia Valdivia. You may begin.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Marsha. Good morning and afternoon. My name is Delia Valdivia, and I'm an international trade specialist for the U.S. Commercial Service and a team member of the Global Design and Construction team. Thank you, everyone, for participating in today's webinar on the Chilean Reconstruction opportunities. We are very excited to be able to provide this webinar for you. We are fortunate to have excellent speakers that have generously offered to share their knowledge and expertise on the Chilean market and the opportunities available for U.S. companies. Before launching into the webinar content, I'd like to take a few minutes to mention the Commercial Service, the Global Design and Construction team, and introduce our speakers on the call. The U.S. Commercial Service is the trade promotion arm of the U.S. Department of Commerce, International Trade Administration. We are located in over 100 U.S. cities and in 80 countries. We work with small and medium-sized companies in assisting them in increasing their sales in the international markets. We are here to assist you in every stage of the export process. And here are just a couple of the different things that we do: global networking, market intelligence, trade counseling, business matchmaking, and trade advocacy. Within the Department of Commerce, the U.S. Commercial Service, we have the Global Design and Construction team, which is a group of industry-focused staff that serve and support the U.S. design and construction industry with its international business development. Our mission is to increase the number of U.S. companies selling their products and services overseas. Team members and staff are located worldwide. Some of the services that the team and our staff provide are basically developing an international marketing strategy, obtaining market and industry research, identifying partners, reps for you to work with in international markets, one-to-one counseling on international markets and the opportunity they hold. And if you need something to be customized, we can do that as well. Please take a time to visit our team website at www.export.gov/industry/architecture/index.asp or the one on construction, which is just below. And now for our speakers. We will have, discussing opportunities on the earthquake reconstruction update, we will have Matthew Hilgendorf and Marcelo Orellana. Matthew Hilgendorf is a commercial officer with the U.S. Commercial Service. He's assigned to the U.S. Embassy in Santiago, Chile, and his tour of duty will end in 2014. Previously, Matthew was assigned as a commercial officer at the U.S. Embassy in Mexico City, where his primary sectors were energy, environment, general consumer goods, and travel and tourism. From 2000 to 2008, Matthew worked as an international trade specialist at the U.S. Commercial Service in Santa Fe, New Mexico. In this position, he provided export counseling and support to companies located primarily in the city of Albuquerque and the border region of southern New Mexico and El Paso, Texas. Prior to working with the U.S. Department of Commerce, Matthew worked with the State of New Mexico Trade Division as the Americas Trade Specialist. From 1994 to 1997, Matthew lived in Santiago, Chile, where he worked in the Free Trade Agreement Office of the American Chamber of Commerce in Chile and the Chilean Export Promotion Agency known as ProChile. Matthew is a native of New Mexico and is a graduate of the American University in Washington, D.C., and the United World College of the Adriatic in Italy. Joining him in discussing earthquake reconstruction update will be Marcelo Orellana. Marcelo Orellana serves as a commercial specialist at the U.S. Embassy in Chile. He joined the U.S. Commercial Service in January 2000. His primary industry sectors are mining, energy, and construction. In addition, he coordinates the U.S. Export-Import Bank trade financing programs, as well as the Overseas Private Investment Cooperation Project Finance Program. Prior to his joining the U.S. Commercial Service in Santiago, Chile, he worked in the private sector for Chilean as well as U.S. companies. We also have the opportunity to hear from Carolina Candia. Carolina Candia is a corporate and commercial lawyer. Ms. Candia graduated from the University of Chile in 2000. She specialized in the concession of public works and projects and government procurement. She currently works for Alcalde Aicia law firm. The U.S. Export-Import Bank is one of their many international clients. And finally, we'll have an overview of Rebuild Chile internationally from Peter McKenna from Common Worldwide. Peter McKenna has been planning and implementing the global events for over 25 years. He was born in Minnesota. He has lived and worked throughout the U.S., Europe, and Asia. He began his exhibition career organizing U.S. national pavilions at trade shows in Thailand, Japan, and the UAE. Over the years, he added trade events in China, India, Russia, Korea, Singapore, Hong Kong, Vietnam, the Philippines, Austria, Poland, Kuwait, Jordan, and many other countries. These events have covered a variety of industrial sectors ranging from aerospace and telecommunications, equipment to agricultural commodities, building materials, automotive equipment, and medical supplies. He's managed a number of projects for the U.S. Department of Commerce, state, agriculture, and defense, as well as other state and regional government and private sector organizations. He has also worked with the White House office in scheduling and advance assisting the team who plans and implements the President's foreign and domestic events. Mr. McKenna received a BA degree from the University of St. Thomas in St. Paul, Minnesota, and his master's degree in the International Relations from the London School of Economics. With that, we will start our program with Matthew and Marcel.
Thank you, Delia. Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. This is Matthew Hilgendorf, Commercial Officer with the Commercial Service, stationed here at the U.S. Embassy in Santiago. I have with me today Commercial Specialist Marcelo Orellana, and we're going to take the next 15 minutes to describe what has happened here and what is happening in terms of rebuild and how we can support you. Our office, by the way, for those of you who have been to U.S. Commerce offices outside the U.S., we're the commercial section in the embassy, and our job is to help the U.S. exporter of products or services to sell outside the U.S., and we're here to serve you. Next slide, please. Overview. Very quickly, we're going to cover these 5 items, just so that you see what we're going to talk about: epicenter, demographic information, damages, Chilean government actions and response, private sector involvement, and opportunities. Next slide, please. As many of you know, Chile is one of the most interesting countries in the world in terms of its geography. It is extremely long and thin, just 100 miles wide on average, diverse climate and geography. Right now we've got a full-on winter with snow in the mountains and below freezing temperatures in the morning. The opposite seasons from the U.S., as most of you know. 17 million population makes it a relatively small country, but it is a country with a high level of development and a high amount of consumer buying power. I mean, the point is here that this earthquake hit the center of the country where the population is concentrated. We estimate about 75% of the population was affected. Closest to the epicenter is the city of Concepcion, a large seaport and the heart of wood and paper industry. Population of greater Concepcion area is about 2 million people. Coal, steel, petrochemical industries are also present there. A note on Chile. Chile has always been reconstructing. It's a country that suffers an earthquake of this size about every 25 years. And in between, there are less severe ones that cause significant damage too. So it may be incredible, but they're still reconstructing from the previous one. I just read yesterday a hospital in Tocopilla, a city north of Santiago, is about to inaugurate its newest hospital, one that was severely damaged in a 2008 earthquake that most of us wouldn't even remember. So this is a country used to reconstructing, and it's a way of life. Next slide, please. Damages and costs. These are dramatic photos. These are not invented. These are real photos. The total cost of the damage and lost production is estimated at $30 billion, which is about 17% of GDP. So a huge economic hit. But however, Chile is going to get a huge economic injection in terms of government spending and attention on reconstructing. So we expect that despite the hit to the GDP, things will be just fine economically. They talk about, in terms of infrastructure, as many as 221 bridges were damaged or destroyed, highways, almost 1,000 miles, and a lot of infrastructure in the area of Concepcion, both in terms of the port and then the canal, are also going to need repair. Schools, as many as 3,000. This number of students, over 1 million. In hospitals, 60 damaged and 15 destroyed completely. Homes, the estimate is about 370,000 homes, either damaged or destroyed. Again, not all of these were damaged. Some were just destroyed. Some, exactly. The Chilean, next one, thank you. The Chilean government response. The emergency care was provided and was successful, and Chile, thanks to the international community, has recovered very well. With the winter coming on, that is back in May, there was a need to really put roofs over people's heads and make sure that they were safe and all their basic needs taken care of. And this was accomplished quite well. In fact, it's kind of a fun bit of trivia, but the first World Cup game, soccer World Cup game that Chile played, the idea was that everybody would be under a roof and somewhat comfortable in order to see that game because it was such a big deal. And they accomplished it. It's worth noting that a special exception to Chile's procurement or concession procedure has expired. There was a time in the very beginning when, in order to get the relief out quickly, Chile officials and others could make purchases quickly without going through normal, sort of fairly complicated and involved rules. And that's now been, given that things have been accomplished, they're no longer requiring, they're now going to go back to their system, which is a well-designed system, and that we'll talk about in terms of concessions and procuring. Reconstruction is supposed to last about 4 years, unless there's another earthquake to create yet another reconstruction plan. Next one, please. So this is our best, and we've put a lot of effort into this. We've had several people working on this. They're here today around the table. And we've been working hard on this to understand where the opportunities are for you, the companies, because it seems to me that with this call, the main question you want to have answered is whether there's an opportunity for you in Chile and how should you proceed. And the truth is that a lot of the infrastructure has been taken care of. Immediate needs were taken care of. A couple of bridges that were totally destroyed have been put up in a temporary way, and many others that were just damaged have been at least rehabilitated such that they are safe to use, at least for now. And now they're taking inventory on what exactly they're going to do. We've noted, you see here 5 projects that are underway that will be, bid. They're asking for bids. They're asking for companies to bid on these. And these don't necessarily have to do with the reconstruction, but I wanted to put them up here because they illustrate that Chile is continuing on with a general infrastructure investment plan. And something I also want you to take away from this presentation is Chile is not putting on hold anything else that it had planned. I mean, the reconstruction from the earthquake is an issue, but it doesn't change their overall plan. And we understand that plan well, and I've just listed the first 5 projects. Every year there are about another 5 projects of similar value of different kinds that we're going to be tracking. So make sure that you stay in contact with us so that we can help you get into those projects. Housing is ongoing. We estimate that there are, just recently 253,000 families applied for government funds to either repair or completely rebuild their house. About half of them lost their house completely, and the other half had their houses severely damaged. So that's 253,000 families. That's 253,000 homes that are going to need to be built. The price that they'll get in terms of a subsidy from the government is not huge, and it will not build houses of the kinds that we might be used to in the U.S. These are going to be maybe only $15,000, $20,000 housing subsidies. So as you think of selling into Chile, think of building materials that are cost-effective and easy to manage, and that could fit into a very much of a lower price range. Hospitals and schools, I've read now, they're going to be rebuilt to withstand a 9.0 earthquake, and which is a higher standard that probably anyone has attempted in the world. But keep in mind that as we look at that. The government has announced plans to construct 12 hospitals, but we're putting on here holding pattern because we don't see that the tendering process has begun yet. But again, this is the kind of thing that we track, and if you have any interest in that particular type of construction, we hope you stay in contact with us on that. Next slide, please. Private sector involvement. Rebuild Chile 2010, June 2010 trade show was a success. We were involved, and I'll let Peter talk more about that and the upcoming show. Our office is in contact with private firms like those on this phone, on this call, and others determining needs and looking for ways for you to get into the business, either via contracts or selling product or service. I'm listing on this slide some of the companies that we know that will be involved, that are involved in construction and engineering in this country, and that will continue to be. And I put them up there because these are the kinds of companies we can help you make contacts with. And we want to emphasize that in a country like Chile, it's extremely important to make, partnerships or go into partnership with a local firm. It'll make everything much easier, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Next slide, please. So opportunities for U.S. companies. I don't need to tell you this. I'm going to put it up only because I wouldn't want to leave anybody out. But there are companies that could be subcontractors. There are those who could be suppliers. And there are even those that could possibly win contracts directly from the government. But essentially, Chile needs, and I'm going to say need, although let's be clear that Chile is a very self-sufficient country. And particularly when it comes to earthquakes, they've rebuilt so many times. They've had to go it alone a lot of the time, and they will continue to. And so, what is needed? Everything is needed. I didn't put everything. I can't list it all. I wanted to focus on 4 here that we think are particularly good opportunities, but it's by no means all that there is. Please don't consider this the end of the final list. But I will note that energy efficiency technology is important. Power prices are very high in Chile, and anything that can use renewable energy or that will simply create energy savings in new construction, I think should be very, very attractive to Chileans today. Machinery and equipment of all kinds, earth moving and so on, specialty building materials. Chile is a wood producer, so, when it comes to wood, Chile is, quite strong, but there may be a lot of other types of materials that U.S. companies can provide that would bring, sort of an added value to their construction. There are success stories. In the interest of time, I'll skip over the discussion of one, but our job in this office is to create success. We don't get much credit for just running webinars. We actually want you to make sales, and when you make a sale, we know we've had success. So I'm less concerned with success stories that have been and more concerned with the ones that we can create for you going forward. Next slide, please. So opportunities for U.S. companies. I'm not going to get into detail here. We're going to talk, if our lawyers are on the line, the ones that we signed up for this conference, then they will talk about this. Otherwise, I'll have Marcelo or Diana talk. But, with any foreign market, there can be several channels that you can use. You can go into partnership. You can go it alone. You can only sell product or service. And you can choose to open an office, not open an office. We know all the variations, and there's so many different kinds of companies on the line today. It would be crazy to try to, talk about any one of those. But you should know that we know that there are different ways, and our job is to help you find the channel. We're going to talk a little bit about the Chile Compra site, which is an online procurement site. And Chile is transparent. The country has got clear rules, and it's highly competitive, which is the downside, but it's highly transparent, which is the upside of that. And again, I'd like to leave you with a note that we encourage you strongly to partner with people, and that's exactly where we come in, is we help you find the appropriate partner, one that complements what you can do and will give you, an inside track into doing business. So next slide is the last slide. I want to thank everybody for being on the call. I tried to cover as much as I could in a short amount of time in the interest of hopefully leaving plenty of time for questions and answers where most of, sort of the good exchange can occur. At this point, we'd like to find out if the lawyer, Carolina, is on the line. If not, then I would like Marcelo to quickly cover her few slides that we have coming up next. Thank you, everybody.
Carolina, your line is open.
Thank you. Well, it's time to me to talk about. Well, first of all, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Carolina Candia. I'm a corporate lawyer that works for a local firm with plenty of experience in Telecompra process and the concession of public works. And today I'm here to make an introduction, a brief introduction, of the concepts before mentioned, related with two different procedures to make business in Chile. One of them is Telecompra process. This procedure is used to sell to the government, and it is executed through a transactional platform called Telecompra. That is the place where the government publishes its needs for goods and services. And the only way to access to this platform is to register with Telecompra and Teleproveedores, where you have to confirm legal entity status and demonstrate your financial situation and technical adequacy. To operate through the platform is not a simple procedure and requires local assistance. But the scope, to be more specific, the scope of these procedures extends to all contracts subscribed by the government for the supply of all the goods and services it requires for its functions, and applies to national and foreign companies. According to the procurement procedure, these are established by law and are the following: public bidding, private tender, direct contract, and framework contract. The second, next please. Okay. Regarding to the concession program, this is the second concept and is related to the construction, maintenance, and operation of public infrastructure in Chile, such as airports, bridges, prisons, roads, and hospitals. This system is based on the indirect provision of public goods and services through private sector involvement. Management is delivered to the private, who assumes the financial risk in exchange for the right to charge a user fee. These contracts are BOT or DBOT, and both systems involve the private sector participation in the designs, construction, and operation of public works, so that once the concession period ends or expires, the contractor that delivers the work is in the best position to retender. In relation to its scope, the concession law applies, as the slide shows, to all public works, and that means bridges, what I have already told, and domestic and foreign firms or companies that may be involved can be Chilean or foreign as well. Finally, I could say that the award procedure is made through competitive bidding, national or international. That's the end.
Thank you, Carolina. Now, Peter, we can have you.
Okay. Hi. Am I live now?
You're live.
Okay. Thank you all for the opportunity to talk to you about the Expo Rebuild Chile that's taking place in Concepcion in October. I thought, if you could advance the slide, please. What I thought I would talk about today, just briefly, give you a little bit of background about our company, Coleman Worldwide, and zero in a little bit on the specific experience that we have had in Chile over the years, give you a summary of what happened at our first edition of the Rebuild Chile Expo that we held in Santiago in June, and then talk a bit about what we're planning to do now for the second edition of the show that will be taking place in October. And then certainly here to answer any questions and or concerns that you might have. Next slide, please. Coleman Worldwide was founded in 1963 as a company specifically involved in bringing U.S. groups of companies into trade shows all over the world. We've worked on nearly 750 different shows, literally on every continent, and have worked directly with 10,000 individual companies during the course of those years, many of which have been new to market. Next slide, please. Now, in terms of Chile, we first got involved in that market in 1994, organizing the U.S. group at an aerospace event called FIDI, which takes place every 2 years. We then got involved in a mining show called Expo Min, a naval show called Expo Naval, and most recently an event that was just a showcase of U.S. products called Trade One, and the U.S. was the featured country there. Next slide, please. but it was as we were getting ready for FIDI 2010 that just less than a month before that show opened that the terrible earthquake and tsunami of February 27th hit. And, you know, our first concerns, of course, were with the staff and friends that we have in Chile, but after that we wondered whether the show would continue on in Santiago or not. And a lot of meetings were held, a lot of decisions made where the Chilean government decided that despite the massive problems that they were suffering, that they also wanted to send a signal that Chile remained open for business and was capable of dealing with the aftermath of the earthquake. And so barely 3 weeks after that catastrophe, they hosted a large group of international companies at the FIDI show, of which the United States was the largest country participating. Next slide, please. And it was during that show that our president, Tom Coleman, met with the president of Chile, Sebastián Piñera, who had just been sworn into office literally the week before that event. And the president was very, very pleased with the support that he was seeing from the U.S. companies that participated at FIDI. And during the conversation with Tom there, they began to lay the seeds for having a U.S. solo show where U.S. companies that are involved in any of the products and services that Chile would need for the reconstruction effort would come to Chile and showcase those products. And that was followed by a meeting with the U.S. Secretary of Commerce, Gary Locke, in Washington with Tom and the president and a number of business leaders. And the idea and the format of the show in June was launched. Next slide, please. That show, I must say that very, very highly supported by the embassy in Santiago, led by then Ambassador Simons, who has subsequently moved on, but the ambassador and the full commercial service staff there and all of their colleagues really rolled up their sleeves and put a lot of effort into the show, making certain that not only the right U.S. companies were informed about it, but also that the right Chilean visitors came. And in these photos, you're seeing that we had the Minister of Foreign Affairs actually open the show, but we also had the Minister of Defense, the Minister of Energy, the Minister of Health, the Minister of Environmental Affairs, all came through and toured the event. But crucially important were the people that you're seeing in that bottom left picture, the intendentes from the three regions that were most severely impacted by the earthquake. And Chile is divided into regions, and three of them in particular were really heavily impacted, and we got all of the regional governors from those sections of the country to come and meet with not only each other, but also with the national government authorities. Next slide, please. And here's just some depictions of what the hall looked like, some of the meetings going on, and it was really a well-rounded presentation in that we had, exhibitors had booths where they could actually show product. We had social events. We had educational events. This photo is showing the briefing for U.S. exhibitors that Mitch Larson at the embassy put on. And I might add at this point, too, that the patron sponsor of that event was a company out of the United States called AECOM, who had been very heavily involved in the rebuilding of New Orleans after Katrina. And they were supported by another company, Jenner and DuPont. But in addition, there were 65 separate companies exhibiting at that show. Next slide, please. Now, back to the three regions and the presentations that were given during the first show. All three of the regional governors got up and spoke about their regions and about their plans and about what it is that they are anticipating needing as the reconstruction effort continues. And again, the three regions are 6, 7, and 8. And next slide, please. And in particular, those regions, as you can see from these photos, were very heavily damaged, both in terms of housing, in terms of factories, hospitals, schools, utilities, and roadways. And they briefed us all at that point about, how badly things were impacted. Next slide. Next slide, please. Oh, there we are.
Sorry, I'm having technical difficulties.
Oh, okay, there you go. But what they also assured us that at that time already, by June, about 3 months after the actual earthquake and tsunami, they had pretty much stabilized the situation to where they had provided temporary housing for some 800,000 people who were without homes. They had provided temporary schools for the students to go back to. They had stabilized the medical emergencies so that everybody that needed health care was getting it. And really the clock that they were racing against was the onset of winter, which in the southern hemisphere comes June, July, and August. And they wanted to make sure everything was okay for people's basic needs during those months. And they were, even by June, pretty stable in that regard. But now it's time to look at the long-term reconstruction needs. Next slide, please. And that's where the leader of Region 8, which if you remember from my facts and figures there, is by far the largest of the regions and is, in terms of population and economic wherewithal, the capital city of that region is Concepcion, and their intendante, a woman named Jacqueline van Rijsselberg, spoke at our conference, but during that presentation she said, you know, it's great that you're here in Santiago talking to the national government, but we would also equally like you to come down to our region where the actual damage took place. And the fact of the matter is you don't see a lot of visible damage in Santiago, but when you get down to Rancagua and Talca and Concepcion, you see a lot of damage. And she was saying, you know, come on down and actually see where we need your support and your products and your ideas. But for the first time, too, she zeroed in on the idea that, you know, this tragedy has happened, but don't feel bad about trying to make an opportunity out of it, because she certainly is looking at that way. And could I have the next slide, please? This is a aerial shot of one of the coastal regions of her region prior to the earthquake and tsunami. Next shot, please, or next screen. And this is the same exact visual of that area, and you can see the type of destruction and damage that was caused. And you can look at that as just saying, my God, what are we going to do about all of this? It's horrible. Or you can say, well, you know what? Now that exists as it is now, what can we do to make it better? What can we rebuild in that same space that is far better than what we lost? And could I have the next slide, please? Here is an example, again, a specific beachfront area where a lot of fishermen had their homes and their businesses prior to the 27th of February. And next slide, please. This is an idea of what that area could look like given, you know, the right imagination and the right amount of commitment. And certainly the government is on this. They're saying we will support it financially, we'll support whatever laws need to be changed in order to make these zoning things happen. But we do need ideas, we need materials, and we need basically expertise from outside of the region. Next slide, please. And so hence the idea, again, was born right then and there of having the event, but this time having a little bit longer lead time so that more of you could decide to actually be part of it, but also to hold it right where the need is greatest in Concepcion. Next slide. Here's showing a couple of the letters of support that we've received from the regional authorities. In two, we actually have all three regions very much lining up behind this and promising that not only will they attend, but they will invite national government figures to come down from Santiago. They will invite their local trade association representatives, local construction companies, investors, etc. And I actually have a slide coming showing the type of visitors that we are anticipating coming to the show in Concepcion. Next slide, please. And by the way, all of this is available on our website, so I just wanted to assure you if you don't have a chance to get it here, you'll see it there. The visitors that we're looking for will be regional construction industry people, and specifically we did include hospital administrators and educational institutions because that is a big part of the economy in Concepcion. They have a number of universities and also one of the largest hospitals in Latin America. And the timing of this comes at a time where they're going to be making a lot of long-term decisions about how they're going to rebuild both the medical facilities and the educational institutions. We'll be looking for all sorts of public sector leaders, both from Chile and those from from Santiago and from the regions to come, and specifically those in planning departments and different architectural and construction agencies like Public Works and Housing. We're also, though, looking, and I know that Matthew mentioned the idea of entering into joint ventures with Chilean companies to win some of the bigger contracts with the federal government, and we will be encouraging people that already have contracts for the reconstruction to come to the event so that they can then look for sub-suppliers. We're also looking for international investors who may be interested in all sorts of opportunities that are available for things like building shopping malls or hotels or different tourist attractions, factories, etc. And again, from the government point of view, they're offering a lot of incentives to companies to do that. In terms of exhibitors, basically it's all of those types of companies who offer either a product or a service that can be used for the long-term reconstruction of the country. And again, echoing something that Matthew mentioned, a huge priority for Chile is anything to do with environmental sustainability and sort of overall green issues. And that comes both from an understanding that is the wave of the future, but also that Chile doesn't have a lot of oil and gas resources. It's strong in other minerals and agriculture, but to the extent that it doesn't have to import energy and can be using its wind power or solar power, etc., that's what they're aiming to do. Next slide, please.
And Peter, we're going to need to wrap it up.
Right, okay, and we will. This is a floor plan showing that the Sur Activio Exhibition Center in Concepcion did not have any damage by the earthquake, ready to receive U.S. and exhibitors from throughout the world. Next slide. Basically, the component elements are a trade show, a conference that will be taking place side by side with it. We'll be conducting VIP tours. We'll offer companies the opportunity to do presentations of their own. There'll be a load of media coverage, social event site visits around the Concepcion region, and lastly, we produce a book called The Source Book, which will list everybody in, and it will have their contact details for people in Chile that want to buy from them. And I think this is the last slide coming now. Yep. So thank you very much for your time, and I'll remain on the line here to answer any questions. I would also like to just drop one other name here. My colleague, Krista March, is the one that's actually running the U.S. Pavilion and sort of a day-to-day point of contact for that. And I'll have her contact individual companies to introduce herself and answer any further questions that they might have as well. Also in the room with me is our colleague from our office in Santiago, Rodrigo Bastidas, and he, too, is happy to answer any questions anybody might have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you. Thank you to all of our other speakers, Matthew, Marcelo, and Carolina, for the great presentations. And now that we've received all this information on the U.S. Commercial Service and how we can proceed in getting some bids, your next step would be to contact your local trade specialist. If you're not currently working with a commercial service, you can go onto our website at export.gov and click on the Contact Us link, and you would enter your information, and then they would tell you who you will need to contact. And give them a call, and they're ready to help you. And with that, we're going to open it to questions and answers, the Q&A section of this webinar.
Thank you. At this time, we will begin a question and answer session. To ask a question, please press *1 on your touch-tone phone. Please unmute the line and record your first and last name when prompted. To withdraw the question, please press *2. Once again, please press *1 for any questions. One moment, please. Once again, you may press *1 for a question. One moment, please. Questions are populating just now. One moment. Ms. Danielle Milam, your line is open from Franklin International.
Thank you. I have two questions. Is it possible, we are not new to export, however, we are new with this particular product line in Chile. Is it possible to go direct and talk with the U.S. Commercial Service in Santiago, or do we have to work through our local office here?
Thanks for the question. This is Matthew in Santiago. You can work directly with us. We always keep informed our local offices simply so that they can help and support when possible or when needed. But when it comes to specific information about Chile and its market, we are the experts. So come to us directly.
Can I ask another question?
Sure.
Is it possible, because I travel to Chile regularly, to meet if I schedule that with you or one of your colleagues in advance?
That's definitely possible. This is Delia. But the best thing to do would be to contact the local office, just so you have no problem. In case if an email doesn't funnel through or something happens, it's best if you inform your local office to make sure that you have a secure appointment with either Matthew or Marcelo.
Okay, and this is my final question. Is it possible we make construction adhesives or mastics for the building industry, sealants and things of that sort. Is it possible to either purchase or acquire through the commercial service in Chile market reports on the types of building constructions and materials? Because we know that concrete is used heavily in Chile, and I don't know if in the reconstruction they may be considering more U.S. style of housing, using what we would call the wood frame structure and plywood and OSB, and we're trying to get a handle on the materials and substrates and building styles being used to identify the most appropriate adhesives. Is that the type of information we could acquire?
Matthew again here. Certainly, we can. Whatever we have to do, if it's not off the shelf, and something that specific probably wouldn't be off the shelf. Therefore, we would conduct a research. We'd do our own research and create a report for you. And with that, you'd have answers to your question.
Okay.
So it would be a customized market research for you.
Okay.
With a scope of work.
Okay. All right.
Questions.
Very good. Thank you.
Mr. Chip Spetzer, Tumac Lumber, your line is open.
Okay, I just have one question, and it pertains to building materials. We're an export lumber company. We actually import lots of products from Chile here to the United States and to other countries in the world. I'm intrigued to know, as far as North American softwoods go and hardwoods, is there truly an open opportunity? Because there's some significantly large companies in Chile that I imagine are probably very interested in having that business all to themselves. And if so, is there any way to get a list of companies that would be interested in North American species?
Chip, this is Marcelo. Well, since you're aware of the country, you already know that LP is here, and there's some also local lumber and veneer companies, and you're right. It's very hard to compete with the radiata and the eucalyptus prices in general, and but unless there's a specific niche product, where you can work with the ponderosa pine or the yellow pine, or any other American species, there may be a possibility. But you're right. I mean, as an FYI, the number of houses that are being built nowadays, and the proposals for the houses, which are roughly 46 to 50 square meters, are primarily based on OSB and other types of wood panels, veneer panels. And you may be aware of these things, but they are essentially radiata and or eucalyptus based panels. So again, unless there is an energy efficiency angle to using U.S. made wood products, it will be quite of a challenge to compete with this very cheap sources of wood and wood related products.
That was sort of my impression of it, to be honest. I just through my local U.S. export assistant program, they thought it might be of interest. There might be a potential there. But that was sort of my assumption, and there's nothing wrong with that. I understand that, and I respect that. So
sure,
it was worth exploring.
I have a question from one of the participants. The question is the Chilean government extending any relief of importation duties on building materials and products to be used for reconstruction?
You said, are they reducing import duties?
Yeah, are they? Yeah, is there any import duty relief or reduction on building materials?
So no, anything from the U.S. is going to come in under the free trade agreement, in which tariffs on this sort of thing are already at zero, so there's no reduction needed. Now, other countries, of course, we're not concerned with Chile's purchasing of things that are not U.S., but there they might run into a duty, but not with U.S.-made, not things that qualify under the treaty as U.S. originating.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I have 4 more questions on the audio portion so far. Tyrone Burks, Vision Worldwide Trading, your line is open.
Yes, my question is, I'm Mr. Burks from Vision Worldwide Trading, and I would like, how can my company do business with you guys? Because I am what you call an exporter, a liaison person, and I put buyers together. So how would that work with me?
Well, Matthew here again. We're happy to work with anybody. Yes, this is Matthew here. We're happy to work with anybody who is supporting U.S. exports. And if your clients are exporters, we're happy to support you in supporting them. In general terms, yeah.
Okay.
Now,
all right.
As long, the trick is, you or anyone in your business needs to understand your client very well. When we run into trouble, it's with consultants or traders or others who really don't know the product that well, and then when we ask questions and try to get to the opportunities that might exist, if you don't know the answers, well then, we don't know where to go from there. But assuming you represent them well and know their products and their businesses, then there's no reason why you can't talk directly to us and then support your clients that way.
Would you like to take the next question? Kamali Dalia of APS Group International, your line is open.
Oh, thank you. I have a question. We are a global company, and we export a lot of materials such as heavy equipment and metals for the commercial warehousing and commercial molds and stuff. How do I get information to that? And we are like I said, we do export cranes and heavy construction equipment such as cement mixture machines and so forth. I have not done business with Chile, but I have done business with other Latin American countries. So how do I get access to that, and what are the procedures?
This is Delia. First, what I would recommend is that you go onto our website, export.gov, and if you're not working currently with somebody in the commercial service, try to contact your local trade specialist.
Oh, okay.
Then we'll connect you not only with Chile but with other markets, and also keep you informed if there are any trade leads. Occasionally we'll get emails from our colleagues telling us this is needed in this market, and then we can funnel those through to our clients. So the best thing for me to advise to you would be to contact the local trade specialist in your area.
Fair enough. Thank you. And one more thing. I could not hear the half of this seminar. So how do I get a copy of it, or how can I listen to this seminar from start one?
Just so you all know, we will be emailing you a link to the audio portion of the webinar, and it will also have the slides that you can access.
Okay. I really do appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
Bye-bye, man. Bye.
Mr. Guy Holman of Omega Masonry, your line is open.
Yes, hi. Guy Holman here. I had a question regarding existing zoning and building codes. Is there a way to access, either electronically or in printed format, existing codes?
This is Marcelo. Yes, there is a way of getting. I don't know about the electronic form. Our experience with zoning maps is that they are when you get one zoning map for a specific area or town, since there are basically it's a very dynamic map of any given zone, particularly after an earthquake of this magnitude. But they're not easy to get. I've seen them. I know it's possible to get them, and they're rather. They try to keep them on hard copies more than on electronic form. So, if you would like to get a specific zoning for a specific zone in any particular city, you have to be very focused on which one are you interested, and knowing that there is these things normally take requires a fee to be paid as a business facilitation service from our side, and also to the government entities that issue these documents. But it's possible to get them, but with this disclaimer that they are very dynamic documents.
Okay.
And I would suspect that they would be even more so, given the changes that Matthew indicated earlier in the presentation. The export rebuild wants to, most of the authorities want to go back to they don't want to go back. They want to move forward and have new zoning for new areas. So I'm pretty sure that all of those zoning maps and zoning criteria are being revised as we speak.
Okay. So with the whole rebuilding process and with the revamping of codes, it's sort of like a work in progress. So they're really looking at, from the design build category, I would say there would be a tremendous opportunity there.
Yes, there would be a tremendous, but keep in mind that as Matthew also indicated, that this is a highly competitive country. It's a completely open economy, and so if there are engineering firms or zoning expertise from Latin Americans or European countries or even Asian countries, they will also be looking at it, and because of the competitiveness scenario in the country.
Okay. And just lastly, can you talk just about the realities of trying to stage a project in the current conditions in Chile in terms of just logistics of getting things around roads and getting product to the site, those type of conditions that are on the ground?
Well, as was described earlier in the presentation, Chile came out of what we could term the emergency status, and the roads are there. They need to be. Most of the bridges are back to. They can be used, although they are temporary bridges. Most of the roads are being used, lateral roads or alternative routes if it's not possible to use the highways. But in general, the country is working under fairly normal conditions. The telecommunications, the road infrastructure is rendering the service it's supposed to, except that there's many detours. Sometimes in terms of using double lane roads, then you have to use one lane or use an alternative route. But the country is connected in all ways, not only as far as roads are concerned, but telecommunications. So in order to get a project done, basically I would say that, and it was mentioned by Matthew as well, I would say that the key element is to get a local partner that will help you understand the details on how to go about getting into a project and understanding, for example, what is a concession, how to work with concessionaires, how to work with the Chilean government, et cetera, et cetera. and that's where we come in. That's how we can help you. You can tell us, I would like to partner up with a company that has such expertise in this particular field, and we can move from there and start from there, finding an appropriate contact or partner for you.
I have a quick question from another participant. Is the Chilean government do they have any regulations as far as rebuilding with green products or green technology? Can you guys answer that?
This is Marcelo again. There is a big push, and it's coming on very strong. And you may be familiar with the LEED certification of construction infrastructure. It makes an important difference. Some new projects that are green projects will have a better chance of getting more attention in the international community. Keeping in mind that this is again, I cannot overstress the fact that this is an open economy. You'll find everybody here: the Germans, the Italians, the French, the Australians, the New Zealanders. And they are all looking for opportunities in these areas. And certainly this type of certification, these green type certifications are as you know, in the international markets are very well regarded. And the local developers know that, so they are setting up and putting up buildings with this type of certification. So the answer is yes. It's something that it's coming on very strong. And as you know, and they're coming to stay.
Okay, thank you.
I do have 4 more questions on the phones. Tyrone Burks, Vision Worldwide, your line is open.
Can I just say one thing before you ask your question? We're now entering into, we've been on for 1 hour, and that's the time we said that for the duration of the webinar. If there's more questions, please feel free to ask them. But for other individuals, if you have to get off the phone, we want to respect your time. This is being recorded, so if you need to leave, you'll be able to access this at a later time. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, I was interrupted, and I didn't get a chance to finish hearing what he was saying about my company, by me being a liaison person, and how can you guys work with me in partnering up with someone?
Well, Matthew, again, if you didn't hear my answer, it was we can work together. I'd like to discuss the details, offline. We support anybody who is working with the U.S. exporter. I mean, if we know you can't just be moving product from China through the U.S., then you don't qualify. But if you're working with a legitimate U.S. exporter, we'd love to work with you.
Okay, all right, okay. That sounds great.
Our next question comes from Dario Rivera of Solvutions. Your line is open.
Hi, thank you. I work with a company that supplies simulators for training operators in different industries, including but not limited to construction, ports, transportation, trains, buses, you name it. They have different kinds of simulators. I would like to ask you about your perspectives on this, how you see the current opportunities in Chile for this kind of product.
We have 2 people that can answer this question. So certainly, now when you talk about simulators, are these very sort of the type of F-16 type simulators, flying type simulators, but for other applications, obviously?
These are simulators for a specific application, like dozer simulations, backhoe simulators.
Okay.
Train, being able to operate a train simulator. Very specific.
Well, there is a huge demand for that in this country. Okay. The trick is that the amount of capital investment required to bring some of these machines is basically prohibitive for many of the companies that would like to use this type of technology. But the demand is certainly here, keeping in mind that this is not only a mining country, but a country that runs public transportation, lets public transportation to be taken care of by private companies. And so there's a lot of demand for teaching new drivers how to drive large buses and huge and heavy trucks used in the mining sector as well as the construction sector. So there are opportunities there. The only challenge, as indicated, is the capital outlay for these type of machineries. Something that I would say that's where the challenge resides. How to get hundreds of thousands of dollars equipment down here and get the return on the investment quickly enough to make sense. But the need is there. In fact, some of the current bus operators are trying to do something to get that type of technology into the country. But something that we can certainly help you with, and getting you the not only the right information but the right companies to work with. Okay. Are you speaking of a specific? Are you talking about a specific model, brand model, or just conceptually speaking of the technology?
Depending on the industry, it can be a specific modules. For example, in train can be a specific machine. Otherwise, are generic, but it depends on the industry. Who should I talk to on this regard?
Yeah. Hi, this is Claudia Melconian here in Santiago. Please contact me, and I can do a little research for your products. And because now, in this minute, I would not have ready information for you. So please contact me here at the office, Claudia.Melconian @trade.gov, and we can talk about this.
So Claudia, what?
Claudia.Melconian, MELKONIAN @trade.gov.
Well, I got part of that.
Sorry?
I got part of the information.
Well, we can follow up with you afterwards with the contact information.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Our next question comes from Mr. Stephen Peters of Fennell and Peters International. Your line is open. Go ahead with your question, Mr. Peters. Please check your mute switch. Mr. Peters, your line is open. Go ahead, Mr. Peters, with your question.
And we can move on to the next.
Okay. Mr. Robert Allen, your line is open.
Hello?
Your line is open from Stoic International. Yes, we can.
Hi, this is Robert Allen, Stoic International. I have a couple of different questions, market sectors I want to get some information on. Namely, in the beginning, what is the status of the water resources in Chile? Is there a shortage of water? Is there water but it's contaminated, or is everything, do they have a sufficient water need?
This is Matthew. We're divided up into sectors here. Our water expert isn't in the room currently. Overall, Chile has a lot of fresh water, more than most countries do per square mile, given their the mountains and the snow and the rivers. And in fact, you can drink the water here, if that's at all relevant to the discussion. The water supply is good overall. But for your question, we would love to get to you later and answer specifically and find out how we can help and where there's an opportunity. But I just don't have a way to answer it all right now.
But what is the specific question, if I may, we may ask you?
Just as far as the water availability and the resources of water, I know for Mexico has a very big shortage of water. And
are you talking about drinking water or industrial water?
Drinking, consumable.
Okay. As Matthew indicated, the person in charge of that, but what we can chime in at this time is that one of the water supply was one of the, I would say, one of the first elements that was addressed right after the new administration came into power, which was March 12th, and it was given the highest priority to have the water network back into operation as much as possible. But there were some, obviously, as you can imagine, with an 8.8 earthquake, there was a lot of damage in the water distribution network, but the current status is something that one of our colleagues would be able to give you a better indication.
Okay. Another brief question here. Y'all had mentioned the possibility of the door was open for joint ventures with foreign and Chilean companies to land the bigger projects, construction bids and all. Is that pretty much the only way a foreign company would land a large project?
Is that the only way a big company would land one of those contracts?
Right. I know a lot of times foreign countries, they try to make it so it's difficult for a foreign country to win the big bucks. Is there such an obstacle in Chile? Right.
I understand I understand that phenomenon. There's nothing here that says that a foreign company cannot win a concession or a contract. However, it just turns out that the ones that associate and create an alliance and bring the best product offering are the ones that win, and it typically is somebody who's partnered.
Right.
And in addition to that, to answer your question, yes, foreign companies can get into the big bucks projects, and I'll give you a couple of examples. One is the Santiago metropolitan area public transportation system is in private foreign hands as we speak. Most of the electricity generated in the country is in private foreign hands. Some of the tenders for telecommunications, for example, are also in private foreign hands. The only caveat to the comment is that these foreign companies have been here in the country, so they understand the culture and the procedures. They don't make them difficult so that private foreign companies cannot come in. It's just that it's needed to understand, how to operate with the regulations. Okay, but the market is open, and in fact, you were concerned about one of your questions was the water supply. Well, the Canadians own a big chunk of the water supply in this country through a pension fund. And so the Italians are, the Spaniards, the French, the Germans, they're in many different areas, and that's why it's so relevant, and that was the relevancy of telling you that there's something that's called the concession program, which most of these big projects, large projects, are developed. Meaning, they could go from highways to hospitals, to schools, to prisons, and you name it, all the big bucks projects, as you indicated.
Okay. One last parting question here regarding these tenders and the trade leads. and it's a double-folded question. Number one, is how much of the leads that are open down there will appear on the USCS website, trade leads, and is there a formal site in Chile that one can go to review the different tenders?
Well, for some of the large projects, there is a website there's a company, for-fee company, private company that lists some of the big infrastructure projects, named mostly mining projects. The name escapes me right now, but there is one, and you can certainly send me an email. This is Marcelo to ask me what's the name of that website. I just don't remember exactly right now. But it lists, the type of projects, when are they going to come into, in what stage are they in, and when they're going to come into the, different development stage. And also, one of my colleagues, Veronica Pinto, is just jotting down here some of the other websites having to do with infrastructure. One of them is MOP, and MOP.cl, and under projects 2010-2014. And then there's another website called by the name of concession.cl. You'll see some of the large infrastructure projects there. It's public works mostly.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. That's it.
Another question has populated. Bree Russell of U.S. Commercial Service, Charlotte, your line is open.
Hi, thank you. I'm calling to ask if the demolition work has been done. Has the demolition company been selected, or are there certain demolition projects that are still available to U.S. companies to bid on?
This is Marcelo again. There is plenty of demolition available here. As to whether they are open to U.S. companies, the same strategy holds as indicated earlier. The idea is to get in touch with us so that we can find out who locally is handling these demolition projects. But keep in mind that we're looking at almost 1/5 of the country that was hit pretty badly. So there's a lot of rubble still. Even in Santiago, okay, but again, as Matthew mentioned, the best and most practical way would be to first talk to us so that we can help you find an appropriate partner and that can tell you, what's the very latest status on the demolition opportunities. But there's a lot of buildings that need to be demolished. They're deciding as we speak on which ones and how to where are they going to start? Are they going to start in Santiago? Or are they going to start in Rancagua, in Concepcion? It's not only buildings but also bridges that need to be rebuilt.
Is there a central ministry that's managing that?
The Ministry of Public Works. Okay. And that was one of the websites we indicated to the earlier question. That's MOP.cl.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Currently, no questions have populated. Would you like me to give the scripting again on how to ask a question?
I think we've gone almost 20 minutes over the hour, so I think we probably want to wrap it up now.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you all for joining us, and like we mentioned, this call, the webinar portion will be sent out. A link for the webinar portion will be sent out to all the participants, so you can access it at any time after the call.
This concludes today's call. Thank you for participating. You may disconnect at this time. Thank you.
Operator, can you have the speakers in one room?